Hey everyone, this is Kristin from KristinCoaching.com. Thanks again for joining me for this video today. We're going to be talking about what happens if you are ready to have a baby, but your partner, your spouse, your significant other is not ready to have a baby. That can be a really difficult place to be in, and it can actually be a lot of deal breakers for relationships, especially when one person really does want to start a family and that's what they wanted from day one of their life, and they know that. And then maybe the other person just isn't ready yet or really just doesn't want children or can't see themselves with children. And that can be a really difficult place to be in, right? Because you've been in your relationship for however long it's been, probably a while, and you've invested so much emotional time and energy into it. And whether or not to start a family, again, can be really, it's a huge decision for a lot of people. And it can mean everything to people to either start a family or not to start a family. So to be on different pages on this type of a situation is really hard. So I want to discuss ways of, let's say either you are ready to have a baby and your significant other isn't, and just things that the person who maybe isn't ready to have a baby, things that you can talk to them about to just help maybe persuade them or, not necessarily convince them, but make them a little more open to really figuring out if children are the right thing for them. And I just want to say that not everybody wants kids in their life, and that is okay. I really do respect that and I validate that. And I also think it's really important for people who want children to be able to have them in their relationship. So again, as you can see, it can cause a really big rift if you guys are on separate pages. So let's just say, one person is not ready to have a child. What do we do, right? I think the first thing that needs to happen in the relationship is you have to talk about that person's fears. What is that person worried about? What are their concerns? And it's important that their other half really just takes this time and listens to them, doesn't interrupt them, but just lets them be heard. Because a lot of times, our fears are they are real and they're very internal, and they really can bring up a lot of intense emotions within us. So I think just getting out the fears is really healthy for that person to do, whether it's yourself or your partner. So get your fears out, communicate it, let your partner know really what's going on. Don't bottle it up inside. That's not a healthy thing. You need to be able to communicate and be honest about it. The second thing is, I think you need to be addressing those fears and possibly addressing those fears with a type of a solution. I think there are solutions to any fears or any problems that we have. So, it would be nice if you or your significant other are able to kind of resolve some fears in our minds, because a lot of times we dredge up the worst case scenario in our minds, but in reality that really doesn't happen. So being able to address the fears with the solutions, but in a non-judgmental way, in a calm way, in a healthy way, in just a really realistic way, I think is important to do. Also, for the person who maybe isn't ready to have babies, I think just experiencing what it's like to be around babies is really helpful. So experience being around babies together as a couple. It's one thing to be around babies and you're not really into it by yourself, but there is sometimes a different aspect or mental state that can come around if you're around babies with the person that you love and you're taking care of somebody else's baby together. That can sometimes dredge up different types of feelings for you. So I just think it's really important to experience a baby together as a team, as a partnership, to just see how you guys do, just to see how you guys feel being around another baby and kind of being a team when it comes to that. Just a personal experiment to see if you're still really against it or it's actually not as bad as you thought it was. So I think being around babies is actually really important. Also, for the person who is ready to have a baby, to be talking about the positive qualities of their partner and how their partner would make a good father or a good mother. I think people who aren't ready need to hear a lot of positive feedback, because there's a lot of fears that they might have of their ability being a parent. So having the partner being supportive and telling them, how, in what ways they would make a great mom or make a great father can be really helpful, just in terms of somebody kind of, just feeling more secure about themselves with parenthood, Also, I think the last thing in order to do is if you guys are on separate pages, especially for the one person who is ready to have a baby, is to be patient with your other half who isn't ready. And that's really important. I mean, obviously certain people really are on an internal time clock. And so you have goals that you want to meet at maybe certain ages or certain times in your life. And that is absolutely understandable. And at the same time, convincing somebody to be ready to have a child or really persuading somebody, that's not an overnight process. So it's important to be patient with that. I think it's really important to know if your other half knows if they're not ready now, do they think they're going to be ready in the future? Do they see themselves having children? Just having that type of a dialogue so you're not putting yourself in this type of position to be disappointed in the future. It's important to know that, maybe your other half might not be ready now, but there's a possibility that someday. It's really hard if your other half is saying, absolutely not, I don't want one at all, ever, 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 and you absolutely do. That's a huge gap to kind of fill and come into the middle. I'm not saying that can't happen, but it's definitely a really hard situation to be in because it's so polar opposites of an idea. So be patient, when it comes to somebody not being able to be ready to start a family yet, but also make sure that you guys are on the same page for the future, because it can really come to a head at some point when one person is absolutely ready, their time clock is absolutely done, and their partner still is not ready. That can cause a really bad hardship and possible breakup down the road. So I think it's really important to have this dialogue now and just really make sure that you're on the same page in terms of, are you going to be able to come to a compromise at some point if you guys are totally on opposite ends right now. Be patient with that, have a dialogue, and start talking about it. I think no matter what, both people need to be happy in this decision. Both people need to be happy to either start a family or not start a family, whatever it is that you decide for yourself. But you can't be in a relationship where one person has a baby and the other one doesn't. That doesn't happen, right? This is something that both of you either need to be invested in or both of you don't need to be invested in. But being able to agree with one another and be on the same page is really important. So I wish you guys the best in your endeavor. I know this is such a hard situation to be in, but try these tips in terms of, having a dialogue and figuring out really what is maybe stopping the other person for not wanting one, and getting down to the real root of it is really important. And then figuring out where you guys are going to go from there once you do get to the root and to the heart of things. Ask me any questions below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, or any comments. Subscribe to my YouTube page if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys next time for my next video tip. And thanks so much for listening. Bye-bye.